Let's bring in journalist and commentator Stephen A. Smith. Generically speaking, where do you stand on all of this rhetoric when a guy comes out and says the President of the United States has a deep-seated hatred for white people?
Well, clearly it was inappropriate, highly inappropriate for Glenn Beck to say that. I don't think anybody would dispute that. I completely co-sign with the professor from Bucknell with everything that he had to say, but I also think it's worth pointing out that you weren't just talking about Barack Obama and calling him a racist. You were calling the President of the United States. So you were basically being oblivious or dismissive of the position that he holds and the integrity that comes along with it. You wouldn't say that about anybody else. You'd be highly reluctant to do so. And this is also the same Glenn Beck who went on The View and said, you know what, I'm an entertainer. I'm not a reporter. I don't necessarily do my research. The facts don't particularly matter to me. So there you have it.
Isn't he abdicating his responsibility to throw out something like that? And there are rabid followers out there on the hard right wing that respond to this kind of stuff.
I think he's abdicating his responsibility. I think he's definitely fanning the flames, and I think because he's one of those people who genuinely feel the way that small minority may feel. And I think that's what you can't escape in all of this situation. This guy has the pulpit to say what he wants to say to whomever he chooses, and the people who follow him, evidently he believes that's an audience that would be receptive to what he's saying. So therefore he said what he has to say because he knows he's going to have a support base behind it, which shows you how unhealthy this country potentially is.
Absolutely. Now, this has happened before. Around the events of Katrina, President Bush was labeled by some as a racist. He responded to it. Here's what he had to say.
Somebody I heard, a couple of people, said Bush didn't respond because of race, because he's a racist, or alleged that. That is absolutely wrong, and I reject that. Frankly, that's the kind of thing that you can call me anything you want, but do not call me a racist.
Should the President of the United States respond at this point?
I don't think Barack Obama should respond to something. I don't think he should dignify it with a response at all because this is just Glenn Beck sounding off. In the case of former President George W. Bush, it was entirely appropriate for him to do so because we were talking about the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the lives that were lost, things of that nature. It was a much more serious matter. You had a lot of people that felt like he mishandled that entire situation. This is small time compared to that.
Well, this is the same pattern. These are the Tea Partiers. These are the birthers. Yes. This is the narrative. They want the man to fail, and now they're labeling, hey, he's a racist, has a deep-seated...
But in fairness to those people with the Tea Partiers, as you so eloquently called them, you have people who want him to fail because they believe he's making a move towards socialism. Whether they're correct or not is irrelevant. That's what they believe. That's entirely different than labeling them hate mongers or
birds of a feather flock together.
I'm just saying you don't want to taint everybody with that broad brush. I don't want to get that extreme. Glenn Beck and what he said and the audience that he has for those kind of statements is entirely different than right-wingers who have a problem with President Obama's policies.
It's the conservatives who always come out and say, I think that you should disavow yourself from the Cindy Sheehan's of the world, and do you disavow yourself from that claim? They do this all the time.
I don't feel...
So do the Republicans, do the conservatives, do they embrace? And that's where this goes.
Well,
what's the end to it?
Certainly they should speak out about it, but let's be fair. I don't think the conservatives have a corner market on extremism. I think we can see extremism to the left sometimes too, but clearly they need to address the situation as it pertains to Glenn Beck and disassociate and distance themselves from it if they definitely want to cater to that audience and show mainstream America, you know what, we are not this far gone.
Stephen A. Smith, good to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much.